fighting with my in-ears. Lindsay, are we becoming a dog church?
Yeah, we are becoming a dog church. Woo! I love it.
Paul's apparently excited.
Durin started it. Durin's gonna sing. Yes. We are a dog church.
Might start something.
Yeah. Be careful what you start.
They say this mountain can't be moved. They say these chains will never break. But they don't know you like we do. There is power in your name. We've heard that there is no way through. We've heard the tide will never change. They haven't seen what you can do. There is power in your name. So much power in your name. Move the immovable, break the unbreakable. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. From the impossible, we'll see a miracle. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. We know that hope is never lost. Oh, for there is still an empty grave. God, we believe no matter what. There is power in your name. So much power in your name.
Sing it out, Journey.
Move the immovable, break the unbreakable. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. From the impossible, we'll see a miracle. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. You are the way when there seems to be no way. We trust in you, God, you have the final say.
when the road runs dead, you can see a way I don't. And it makes no sense, but you see that's what faith is for. When I see a flood, you see a promise. When I see a grave, you see a door. Wait, I'm at my end. You see where the future starts.
I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. You've been good on every promise, from Eden to Zion, through every dead end and out of that grave. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. And when the world's on fire, it's not like you don't have a plan. And when the earth gives way on this rock, your church will stand. And nothing has ever once surprised you. Nothing has ever made you flinch. And when it all shakes out, the gates of hell don't stand a chance. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. You've been good on every promise, from Eden to Zion, through every dead end and out of that grave. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. You pull my heart from Egypt. You carved a road through the sea. From all our chains to endless praise, the story ends in you. And when we cross that Jordan, look back at where we've been. From all our chains to endless praise, the story ends in you. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. You've been good on every promise, from Eden to Zion, through every dead end and out of that grave. I don't know how you make a way, but I know you will. I know you will. Spirit of the living God, Spirit of the living God, we only wanna hear your voice. We're hanging on every word. Spirit of the living God, Spirit of the living God, we wanna know you more and more. We're hanging on every word. Come and speak to us, Lord. Spirit of the living God, Spirit of the living God, we only wanna hear your voice. We're hanging on every word. Spirit of the living God, Spirit of the living God, we wanna know you more and more. We're hanging on every word. 'Cause when you speak, when you move, when you do what only you can do, everything else can wait. Spirit of the living God, Spirit of the living God, come now and breathe upon our hearts. Come now and have your way. 'Cause when you speak, when you move, when you do what only you can do, it changes us, it changes what we see and what we see. When you come in the room, when you do what only you can do, it changes us, it changes what we see and what we see. You move all our fears. When you move us to tears. When you fall, we fall on our knees. When we fall at your feet. When you fall, we fall on our knees. And when you fall, we fall at your feet. When you fall, we fall on our knees. And when you fall, we fall at your feet. 'Cause when you speak, when you move, when you do what only you can do, it changes us, changes what we see and what we see. When you come in the room, when you do what only you can do, it changes us, changes what we see and what we see. Changing everything. Spirit of the living God, Spirit of the living God, we only wanna hear your voice. We're hanging on every word.
Dear Heavenly Father, we are so grateful to be gathered here today as a community, as a congregation under your name. We're so thankful that you love us and you care about us, and we are so grateful to gather in your presence. Please bless our speaker and our time together in this holy fellowship. Amen.
Good morning, Journey. You guys take a second, tell somebody good morning while we switch over here. Tell them about Jesus. Amen. Amen.
I don't have enough hands. Good morning. Well, that was a great start to our time together. I always love our worship together, and I'm so happy to have all of those who continue to support our worship team, lead us. An extra friend up there with us today, very, very cute. Especially with just looking up at everybody and watching. I think maybe I'm going to bring my dog. Just so you know, my dog has several mental issues that are in the DSM-5, and so it'd be a big time for everybody. Anyways, we're glad you're here. I only have one thing to make you aware of, and that is May is one of our months that we participate with Room in the Inn, and we provide a meal for them. We are doing in 2 weeks, we're going to be providing a spaghetti meal. If anyone would like to participate in that, you can find the sign up list online on our website, journeychattanooga.com. Scroll down to the events and you'll see one for Room in the Inn. Click on that and it'll give you the link to sign up. And if you've never participated in that before, this is where we bring a prepared but uncooked meal. For example, if you're making spaghetti, you can still cook it and it can just be heated up, but we will bring it on Sunday. It will be delivered to Room in the Inn, and then their volunteers will actually heat it up and serve it on Monday. So we would love for you to participate in that. We do that every other month on the third Monday, the Sunday before the third Monday of the month. And so we'd love for you to participate in that. Last week we had a great opportunity as a church, a next step for our moving forward, and to hear from Joe. And Joe's one of our new elders, so welcome to being old. We're so proud of you for that. I discovered when you turn 50, you're officially old because you start getting AARP letters in the mail. And I'll just tell you, 50 is too young to be getting AARP letters in the mail. And they keep coming. They just keep coming. So, but we're super, super thrilled to have Joe serving in that role. Today, we're going to be hearing from the other candidate that we're presenting to you, which you also nominated repeatedly. And so I've gotten to know Paul and Jessica over the last few years, and they are just wonderful people. Paul's a little scary. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little nervous giving him a microphone. I just want to tell a little story about Paul. First time I met Paul, we went to lunch or coffee. We had coffee, and he told me what he did, which is super scary stuff. Let me tell you, he knows more about you than you do. And he said, so we talked a little bit about it. He works, if you don't know what he does, he's not in the CIA that I know of, but he works with finding out the best time, or finding the best time to put an email in your inbox so that you are most likely to open it based on your past behavior. If you don't know what that means, go talk to him. And when I got back to my office after that, he sent me an email that showed all of my open times when I opened emails, and I was like, oh, wow. We're going to need to do a background check on him and just see if he's trustworthy of that information. But just come to love them and their family. Our kids love their kids, are good friends, and have been fixtures in our church. Deidre and Jessica both work together, not directly together, but work together. I'm just thankful that they're a part of our church, and they're going to be sharing this morning. So I am going to turn it over to him, and then we'll do the same thing we did last week, which is the way that our church government works here is this is an elder-led church, which means we allow the elders to lead. We do have certain things that the congregation votes on, but for a lot of things, we just allow the elders to lead. And your affirmation of them, saying, yes, you think that they are the right choice, gives them that authority and leeway to lead in those areas that they can just handle themselves. So this is an important role in our church, and it is an important part of our next step. So I'm excited to turn over to them and looking forward to hearing from them.
I text, what? Oh, no, I'm not going to announce that. I won't announce it. Kidmo.
If you're in Kidmo, you can head on upstairs if you're not,
Fine.
haven't already done that.
Okay. Well, I texted Mark this morning, and I said, we're probably going to go long. Sorry, not sorry. And he was like, woo! So we're going to talk today. It's part of the elder selection process where we get to share our testimony. And one of the things that, when we first started talking about it, I think Joe said this last week, and I'll just echo it. I took it really seriously. Like, part of the reason this process has taken so long as a church already, and then we've gone fast, is because we have taken it so seriously. We've really searched our hearts and sought alignment from our family, because we're not talking about a role where it's like just standing up and getting to talk occasionally, which is, I like to talk. This really gets at the core of who we are, right? It puts us under, our family under increased scrutiny, whether or not you mean to or not. Sometimes it's just self-imposed scrutiny. I remember, and we'll get into the actual testimony here in a minute, but I remember when we first went on staff with Young Life. We were in Port Townsend, Washington. It's the least church county in the country. And I was afraid to go to the liquor store to buy anything because I was like, people are watching. They weren't. They didn't care if we liked a margarita on Friday nights. They just didn't care. But there's this sort of self-imposed thing that you feel, right? Heavy as the head that wears the crown. So anyway, we went into this, I think, with absolute consideration, really searching our souls. Just because you want or have indicated you're interested doesn't mean we're ready, right? And so this is where we really took the time to weigh it out. I will share my testimony, but my testimony is nothing without the testimony of my wife. We are together. You get the chance to hear from me probably a lot more than you want to. I don't know that you've gotten to hear from her much. And honestly, she is the best part of our relationship. And so, yeah, that was all to get the O. No, but I'm really excited for you to get to know her a little bit as well through this process, because when you affirm Paul, you're affirming our whole family. Does that make sense? All right. Do you want to say anything? You're good. She says, keep going. All right. Look at Mark. He's bringing chairs because he knows I have back problems. That's not in the testimony. You can just know. Thank you, Mark. Okay. So, Paul Schreiner, born in Bremerton, Washington. Most of you don't know who that is, where that is. Harlan does. Harlan's first Sunday, he and Lettice were here. This was in the old church, the old building, and we sat. It was me and I think 5 of our children, and Harlan and Lettice. And they're like, "Well, where are you from?" And I was like, "You probably don't know it." And he's like, "What is it?" And I was like, "Bremerton, Washington." He's like, "I lived there." Like, "You did? That's amazing. You were stationed on a submarine there, right?" "Yeah." Bangor sub base, Bangor. Anyway, it's a military community. My dad was in the Navy, Vietnam veteran. After serving in the, oh, you're welcome. After serving in the Navy, he got out and was kind of looking around what's next in life. My mom was a missionary in Hong Kong. She went to Point Loma University in San Diego, California. Thank you. Jimmy's mouthing along. San Diego. And so she was she was an English teacher, and she decided she wanted to go to Hong Kong to teach English for 4 years. And she thought she was going to be a career missionary because she loved Jesus that much, right? Awesome. She got out of, my dad's ship went through Hong Kong. They met each other again, re-met each other. They spent a year together in high school. But they met again in Hong Kong, and then my dad had moved around, moved back to Santa Maria, California, where he reconnected with my grandparents. And my grandparents were like, "Why don't you pick up Anne from the airport?" Which is in Los Angeles, two and a half hours away, and 2.5 hours in the car, they get back to Santa Maria, and now all of a sudden, boyfriend, girlfriend, right? Like, it's happening. And they decided to get married I don't think quickly, but they were both ready. You know, my dad had gone through the military. My mom had done her stint with the missions org, and they decided they wanted to move to Bremerton. My dad was born there, my grandmother was born there, my great-grandmother was born there, I was born there. Only one person in our family, of our kids, was born in Bremerton. So like 5 generations, and like here in the East Coast, y'all are like, we've been here for 700 years. Because like that's what you do. Like in the East Coast. Right? No, that's fair. Like the thing is about the East Coast is there is a culture of staying here, right? Because generationally you've stayed, and that's not true for everyone universally. But on the West Coast, there's a culture of sort of moving, or a culture of adventure, right? It's not good or bad. It's just I've noticed that difference. So like to have 5 generations born in the same hospital on the West Coast is very, very unique. Okay. Okay. None of that matters. My parents, they had 2 children biologically. My older brother, named Wesley, she was a Methodist missionary. John and Charles Wesley, they named their firstborn son after John and Charles Wesley. Of course they did, right? Like, because that's what missionaries do. And then they named number 2 Paul Thomas. Paul as an evangelist and Thomas as a doubter, really seeking the truth. Those are heavy names to walk into. You know, like Carl, we couldn't do that. My parents loved Jesus at a very early age. It was always part of our existence. I knew the church better than I knew our home. One thing that was sort of a key part of their life that found its way into our life is they were foster and adoptive parents. We had sort of a carousel of siblings coming and going into our home. And if you're familiar with the foster and adoptive system, there are a whole slew of issues and challenges that come with that, and we experienced all of those, right? So I've seen it both as a sibling, but now also a little bit as a parent, the adoptive parenting. My parents ended up adopting a little boy and a little girl, younger brother and sister. So our family rounded out to about 4 children, depending on how you want to count. Early life was centered around evangelism, outreach. I know it sounds weird, like how is it that that's what you did? Yeah, my mom, they bought a full-size van, a big old green, 2-tone.
15 passenger or 12?
12, it was 12. Big old green, 2-tone Ford Club wagon. JCW 938 was the license plate. Numbers, they stick in my head. Anyway, I remember on Wednesday night, my mom she'd be like, who else can we bring? Who else can we bring to Awana, right? Awana's like this Christian outreach for little kids. Like, you memorize Bible verses so you can get special treats out the treat box. And I remember being like, okay, well, let's talk to this person and this person and this person and this person and this person. And I remember our van being stuffed full with like 20, 25 kids. I'm not even kidding. 12-passenger van. They took the back seats out, and this is before seatbelt laws, and they built, I know it's going to sound creepy, beds, you know, like these. They weren't creepy, but in this today they would be.
It was so they could stuff more kids in the car.
That's right. And so, like, we're piled in, and, like, on the bed, the kids are piled 3 high to get to Awana, right? And you know, here's me. I'm the pal of the month, the pioneer of the month. Like, way to go, right? But that was such a big part of who I was. I guess one other thing I'd like to share sort of as we grow, because you don't care all that much. I had some developmental issues when I was little, like really pretty profound ones. I had severe allergies. I couldn't eat anything. There were 7 foods I could eat. 7, right? So while everyone else was enjoying popcorn, that's the sound effect of popcorn, I was having puffed wheat with butter and salt on it. It's the same thing. You guys don't even know. But like it made me feel different. You know what I mean? Not being able to eat the same foods. I had these motor muscle control issues because just my body hadn't developed in the same way that other people's had. So I was always shaking, right? And I had speech issues, which is funny that I like to talk as much as I do now. I was in speech therapy until I was like in 6th grade, right? Because I couldn't say my ahs.
What?
Ahs.
Okay. Your R's?
Yeah. Great pirate jokes in my house, in case you're wondering. But that was so profound to me. I always felt less than. You know what I mean? There was just always this comparison to other people where it was like, I'm not the same as you. You're normal and I'm not, right? In high school, I had figured out how to win. So I had developed physically. All of a sudden I could eat everything. I could speak. I was what you'd call normal, right? Faith was really important to me still. Athletics were really important to me. Popularity was really important to me. Academics, you notice I did not say that. It was okay. It was really, really important to me, but it was also very siloed, right? Each thing was separate. My church time was my church time. Being popular was being popular. And being funny or whatever was its own thing too, right? Like they were all, and they didn't sort of interconnect. And working with enough young people, how they use silos, a lot of times it's negative to protect or hide things, where I was using silos because I valued each thing individually so much. And we'll bring Young Life into it here in a second. There was a Young Life program at my school. I was not a part of it. I was not a part of it because I saw it and I thought, the people who are going to Young Life, they are doing it just for popularity. I knew what they were doing on the weekends. And that drove me nuts, right? This is this thing that's so deeply important to me, my faith. Jesus creating me to be who I am. For them, just rumors. And I didn't want anything to do with that thing. Meaningful time, my senior year in high school, I went to a conference with the Methodist Church where I was baptized in the Holy Spirit. It was a moment where I kind of claimed this is for me. This is who I am, and this is central. Up until that, it had been my parents' faith that I had sort of walked in, and at this point, it had become my faith. One of those sort of outgrowths was where I went to college. I chose Seattle Pacific. We couldn't afford it. It was an hour away. We chose it because one of the people in the pastor's son at our church was on the view book, and I was like, oh, that looks good. Let's go there. Great reason to select a college. Anyway, so I get to SPU. Yeah, that's where you.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Not at all.
Oh, well, that's not good.
Just lean in close.
Hello? Oh, I think I turned it on and off opposite. Sorry. My childhood is I grew up in Southern California also, which is kind of funny. We had some similarities there. In Torrance, my parents both went to El Segundo High School a couple years apart. My mom had a big Italian Catholic family background. That family we're really close to still. They are loving, loud, connected, generous in your business. And when we're all together, everybody talks at the same time, and there's lots of kissing on the cheeks that makes Paul uncomfortable, but it's fun. My dad worked as a police officer, and my mom is an office manager for a medical office, then pediatricians, ultimately. I had become a Christian really young, like when I was 5 or 6, understanding what I could about Jesus. I knew that I wanted to live for him, and I was baptized. My dad was actually the grandson of a Baptist minister, and his dad had died on his birthday when he was really young, I believe his 12th birthday. So some of those things really significantly impacted him. And together, my parents, dad with a Baptist background and mom with Catholic, really kind of made their own way together in faith. We moved to Boise, Idaho when I was 5. And there they chose a Quaker church, or the Friends Church, if you're familiar with that at all, because it had a really thriving youth and children's program. And a lot of my formative faith years in terms of knowing like who I was, what I believed, what I was about, were really influenced by that specific denomination as a result. Despite having a pretty good start, there was also some deep hurt in my home. My dad struggled with alcoholism and with womanizing. My parents were unhappily married, and that made their relationship as tumultuous and unhappy as it was. It really impacted myself and both my brothers. As a young teenager, I really struggled to make sense of my faith, to make sense of the reality of the pain that I saw in our world and in my home. And during those kind of early years in middle school, a little bit into early high school, I really rejected the faith that I had always known, sort of with a sense of, this is what faith results in? This isn't what I want. I made a lot of challenging and rebellious choices in middle school and early high school, really seeking meaning in all the wrong places. By God's grace, and I said this to Paul last night and he laughed, so hopefully you will too, I'm not married to the adult ex-con or the drug dealer that I had both dated in high school as a freshman. So, really grateful for that. Yeah.
Who knew there'd be applause?
It could have been a real different life. And in that place, as a 15-year-old high school kid, caring adult young life leaders really sought me out. They loved me well, and they brought me back to Jesus. It is really hard for me to find words to express how profound that impact was on me and how different things are, because those adults showed up for me, not because I had it right, because they knew Jesus and they wanted me to also. They reminded me over and over again that I'm God's beloved. They showed me that too. They prayed for me, they discipled me, they taught me, they believed in me and mentored me. My life was really changed when I was at a Young Life camp the summer of 1990 called Woodleaf in California. Summer of 92, so that was right before my senior year of high school, I joined Work Crew. Young Life had an opportunity for students who believed in Jesus and wanted to give back, so I joined the Work Crew, and my leader sent me to this camp in Canada called Malibu I'd never heard of and I thought was crazy and didn't want to go there because that wasn't the camp that I knew. But again, that was one of those really significant milestones for me. I met some of the dearest people that I wanted to spend a lot of time with, even after camp. And a bunch of them were in the Seattle area and went to this university because they were like a year ahead of me going into their freshman year of college when I was going back to my senior year of high school. They were out at SPU. And Seattle Pacific had what they called a like prospective student weekend, so you could come and stay for free and your meals were free, you just had to get there. At the time, Southwest Airlines existed, and I think we bought round trip for like $29 because that was kind of the prices at that time. So I got to go to SPU to hang out with my friends, and I ended up discovering just loving this place, thinking that's really cool, and that's how I ended up at the same school as this guy.
There you go. So we both are at Seattle Pacific freshman year. The way in which, we're just going to get this out of the way, it's not on the notes, but you guys are going to ask, how did you meet? We're going to have to, yeah. So we, group of guys, wanted to meet girls at college, which one does. So there was this lip sync contest, and we decided we were going to sing Lola. She was a showgirl. You know that song? Her name was Lola. She was, thank you, showgirl. You know, anyway, we had this. So I was a showgirl, as was everyone on our floor except for one guy.
And why did you guys decide to sing that special song, Paul?
Because we wanted to meet girls, Jessica, because we wanted to meet girls. So the plan was to go floor to floor, because it was guy floors and girls floors, go floor to floor, the girls' floors, and try to borrow clothes and earrings from girls so that we could meet them. And I ran into Jessica's room, 341, I think. Does that sound right? Okay. Anyway, cute girl answers the door, and I was like, "Do you have any earrings that I can borrow, clip-ons?" And that's when she knew I was the one.
This is.
She's like, "I'm gonna marry that man.
I guess-
We're gonna have 5 children."
Well, then maybe it's my grandma's fault because I had these obnoxious fake pearl earrings that I'd worn at prom that I had, and so he borrowed the earrings. But I like to say that we met because Paul wanted to cross-dress and he needed some supplies. But just also accurate.
I mean, it's both true. Seattle Pacific was an incredible place, right? So much, like I had a floor full of guys that loved Jesus, that were challenging me to love Jesus. They were funny, they wanted to have a great time. Like, I don't know how the Lord drew me there, but that's where I was. And I remember my freshman year just looking around being like, this place is amazing. But quickly, that sense of amazement grew into some guilt, right? That we were living in this bubble, right? This bubble away from all of the non-Christian world. And we were just in our little Christian space doing our little Christian things. And I remember having all kinds of guilt about that. And I prayed about it. And I remember the Lord, there's a handful, you start to hear the Lord's voice as you get older. And you start to train your ear to be like, okay, the Lord's calling me in that way or not in this way, right? And I remember having this moment of the Lord saying, I put you here for a reason. I am preparing you for great things, right? I'm preparing you. I'm building you up for great things, and don't question it. And I was like, okay, I get it. While at college, you already learned how we met. We just got that out of the way. Jessica, who had been really impacted by Young Life, I thought gorgeous, funny, brilliant, and loved Jesus, right? Like, it's the quadfecta. That's a real word, don't look it up. But she challenged me to be better. We spent a lot of time together. I spent as much time with her as she would allow me to spend with her, right? And she made me better. She challenged me to be together, and she was volunteering with Young Life. And remember, I was still carrying this baggage about Young Life. I was like, that org, people just go there to become popular. They're still drinkers and partiers, and right? Okay. But that was my high school experience. Jessica's experience was very different. She had, we talked, and I told her what I was going to say. And I was like, I'm not going to cry. But when her Young Life leaders, I cannot express how grateful I am to these people. Tom and Donna Swatson, Steve Bottomer, people who sought her out when she was at her hardest time in life and spoke wisdom and truth into her life. And she shared that with me when I'm just this turd, right? Who's like, Young Life, stupid. And she's like, well, that changed my life. And here's the thing about finding girlfriends, spouses, fiancés, however you want to say it, that point you to Jesus. They make us better people. You know what I mean? They challenge us. They improve us. So there's this going on at the same time. And she's like, you should come. You should come just check it out. And I came and I saw those same kids were coming to Kamiak High School that were coming to South Kitsap. I mean, they weren't the same kids. That'd be weird, right? But it was the same type of kid. And I had these new eyes. All of a sudden, it was like, no, these kids need Jesus. You know what I mean? Behavior. We all make mistakes, right? That's why Jesus died on the cross. And so for me to hold this against these young people because they're making mistakes is wrong. And it's a sin on my part. And I'll tell you what, I was overwhelmed by this just sense of how wrong I had been. I was the vice president of the largest high school in the state. I was funny, captain of the wrestling team. I was everywhere. And I had leaders, I had adults chomping at the bit to get into my school and tell my friends about Jesus. Something that I had spent my whole life believing was important to me until I realized I'd gotten in my own way. And that was a sin. And I was overwhelmed. I spent I had to take a couple of days off from school to kind of come to grips with this thing, right? The other thing that I had to come to grips with in college that, huge was those things we talked about earlier, feeling less than. They don't leave you. You know what I mean? Just because you get older doesn't mean those things that happen when you're little, when you're a kid, go away. They're still there. They're still buried. If you thought you were ugly when you're little, you still think you're ugly, even though you're gorgeous. You know what I mean? So I'm still carrying all this stuff, and the way I saw myself was less than, poor, couldn't talk, all these things. I was less than. And I ended up going to a counselor, and I remember him saying, and I was an art major, college.
Yeah, you were.
Anyway, I had to paint this giant self-portrait, right? And I think it was the combination of the assignment, like painting yourself, with the scale of it. Scale means big, right? So I've got this giant picture of Paul. Now it's compounded because not only is it a picture of me, but I painted it, so I see everything wrong with it. I see everything wrong with it. But it's not just the stuff that like I've done, the skill of painting. It is also like seeing my own ears that look like my ears, and I'm like, I hate those ears. I see my nose, and it captures a little bit of the essence of who I am, and I see that, and I say, I hate that. And I remember going to the counselor, and he was like, don't you think that this is a bigger story? Don't you think that looking at that picture and all of the things you see wrong with it, there's something else going on inside you? You need to explore that. He's like, you love Jesus and you forgive everyone for everything, but you cannot forgive yourself. You have a whole lot of work to do there. And again, I was floored because I could tell you and I could believe that God loves you with all of my heart and soul, but I couldn't love myself. And it was deeper than that. I wouldn't even say it was like I don't have high enough self-esteem. It was self-loathing. If you saw the person I really was under the covers, if you knew who I really was, you would hate me too. And that is a heavy thing to take on. And I struggled through it. And I remember having conversations with Jessica where, again, marry the right people, date the right people, because they will point you back to Jesus. Yeah, you go ahead. Sure. That's kind of the beginning of my young life story there, but go ahead.
When I was at SPU, I studied sociology, cultural anthropology, cross-cultural ministries. We had no classes together.
None.
Ever, nothing. And I also began volunteering as a young life leader at a school with some of those old friends that I told you about that I met at work crew, that I knew at SPU that were ahead of me. Like, hey, I'm a volunteer leader at this high school. You should come join us. So I just jumped in right away. And being a volunteer was incredibly meaningful. There was something there about being able to give back. Even as young as I was and as young as I looked, people mistook me for a high school kid all the time when I'd go into high schools, which was super fun. But being a volunteer was really meaningful because I got to see God change lives of young people, because I tried to do the same thing that had been modeled and done for me. Growing up, my young life leaders were all teachers. They were all teachers in my high school and their spouses. So there was also some incredible power that the people who had me in class or had seen me in class cared enough about me. And so there was definitely some role modeling for me that I wanted to live up to. And when I was at SPU, I met this cute guy, Paul. And I was really not interested in dating him. Because when we met, I had a boyfriend and I was back home and I was like, no, I'm not into any of this. But everyone around me was really focused on this ring by spring thing, and that boyfriend I had at home and I broke up over Thanksgiving because I just didn't want that. And kind of I went in with this attitude of being like fiercely independent. I think a lot of because of what I'd seen in my family. I was like, nah, I don't want that. And so I had no interest in getting serious, or all these women around me that were like, oh, who's going to get engaged before they graduate? And I was like, oh, that is really not me.
They really said that?
Oh, yes.
That was not what we were saying.
Yeah, the girls. And once we were dating, like for reals, I remember telling Paul, well, I'm okay if we date, just as long as it stays fun, but I don't want anything serious. And then eventually fun became more serious.
Because this guy.
And somehow in the middle of those conversations that we had, I remember one night Paul telling me, God's really put this pull in my heart, and I think I'm supposed to be a pastor somewhere. And instead of hearing that and praying for him and supporting him, I was like, absolutely not. You heard wrong. Ask God again. Because at this point, I was pretty convinced that we were going to probably be together for a bit, and was really sure.
See, she can't even commit then. We were going to be together for like a bit.
And like I think I remember saying to him, like, I am not pastor's wife's material, so this cannot happen. I was like, I don't play the piano, I don't like puppets, I don't like little kids, I don't know if I'll ever be into kids. Like, it just was, I had all of my like reasons, responses, no way ever. So good luck with that. You probably want somebody else if that's the life you want.
I think you did say that too. You were like, and you can go find someone else.
I was like, there's a lot of girls here, they would love that. It's just not me.
Settle down.
Some of the things that happened throughout that is we formed a dear friendship, and our Young Life area director, this is not normal, but he happened to be a single man, so he made the rule that you could date on your Young Life teams.
Let's go.
It used to be in most areas you could, be platonic friends on teams or be in the same like area but not the same high school. And because that's the reason, part of it, Paul got to, as my boyfriend, join my Young Life team, got close with everybody I was close with, and we got to lead together.
Yeah.
Which was really cool to see Paul in that light, to see his gifts, all the things he talked about, like his ability to show up and care about kids. I know it sounds weird, but like that was one of the things that attracted to him the very most, was seeing him show up and care about kids and have such a giant heart and give up his time. Like, I learned from him, and I saw in him like this heart for service and for caring about other people that honestly I hadn't experienced myself in my own home with my father. And it was really, it softened my heart to be like, oh, maybe marriage is okay someday.
Yeah, it did.
Maybe. My parents' final separation and divorce began just before my senior year of college. Even though I'd been dating Paul since our freshman year, I really had a lot of doubt and uncertainty, and I brought that into our relationship. It didn't have to do with Paul or I or where we were at, but just sort of had a really hard struggle spiritually looking at what was happening in my family, and had kind of questions about, I don't know if any marriage could ever really be happy. I didn't know if I could be a worthy wife. And I spent a lot of time talking to God about my fears, learning to really trust God, and ultimately Paul as well. So 5.5 years later, after our very first date, we were married on May 1st, 1999, both 23 years old.
Yep, thank you.
27 years yesterday.
It would have been Friday, but it doesn't matter.
Oh, Friday,
Yeah.
that's what I mean, yeah.
Well, anyway, I said I married that lady. Or a better way to say that is that she decided to grace me with a lifetime of challenge, right? Where she, the same challenge that she issued me about Young Life, she agreed to marry me. And we volunteered together in Young Life for 7 years. In that process, we got married. And again, the best decision I've made in my life. Well, you talk about children, because I think your part of the story is better than mine.
Which part about kids?
How you, like, we're not having kids.
Yeah. I was not excited about children. I'll just be real. So, sorry, guys.
Which is wild that we have 5, right?
Part of it is the work that I did after graduating from college. Even though I had studied sociology, I was doing social work. And I spent most of my time working with kids and youth in the foster care system, kids and youth in a subacute mental health facility. I ran a mentoring program for kids in the juvenile justice system, similar to like Big Brothers Big Sisters. So those were sort of the career pieces. And I saw over and over again kids that people didn't care about, kids who their biggest crime was they didn't have loving, stable homes. And so, honestly, both our hearts, and we were like dumb and 23, 24, we're like, we should become foster parents for 16-year-olds right now. We'd be the best ever. We didn't really pursue that, but that was our hearts when we got married, honestly, was thinking that we'd most likely foster, adopt, like older kids, high school kids, was kind of the plan. So it wasn't no kids ever, but I was like, I don't think I need babies in my body the normal way. We're good. Let's not do that. Is that okay? Is that what you wanted?
No.
Oh, so our pastor, you want to talk about our pastor praying
Oh,
for
yeah,
us?
that's a great part of the story.
We got married.
You're talking about, what's his name? Professor. Okay, so we're in premarital counseling with the person that married us. And I can't even think of his name right now because, of course, George Scranton, thank you. And he's praying over us. He doesn't tell us ahead of time. He's like, and
He asked.
Did
he?
he?
Like, he went over the prayers. This is what I usually pray. I pray
Oh,
over future
yeah.
children. Is that okay? We had like a 2-hour-long conversation. I said, I don't think I ever want kids, so no, don't do that.
But he snuck it in that your quiver will be full.
George is responsible.
It's his fault. It's 100% his fault. So anyway, here we are. We're living in Mukilteo, Washington, and we're thinking we're not going to have kids. And then we find out we're pregnant because we didn't really know how it worked.
Stop.
We did. She said stop. We didn't know how it worked. But what came was, up until that point, probably the most painful thing I'd experienced in my life, which was a miscarriage. Like we had built our lives already in such a short period of time around this idea that like this little person was now a part of our family. And it was so late in development that I just remember feeling like something was stolen from us. You know what I mean? And it cut to the core. I think for me, I think for you as well, it was kind of then that we're like, no, the Lord has implanted this idea of a family in our life. You think that's fair?
I think going through the unexpected, we learned to not only love this new little person who was coming, but it was, I think, trying to remember, 15, 16 weeks. So we were further along, so we had told everybody and made
I think
some
it was like 18 weeks. It was way along.
Yeah, we had made some pretty significant plans. It was heartbreaking, but also like our hearts changed through that unexpected surprise too. And we were like, maybe we do really want kids. And I think you said to me, I always knew you'd want kids. I saw you with your cats. You're like a maternal
Hey,
with
cat lady.
I was like, that's a weird decision, but okay. So, my goodness. After grad school, I began my dream job. You want me to talk about that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, do that.
Okay. I was I was a social worker attorney team, and we help support kids in the juvenile justice system. So it could be anywhere from like an arrest to they've served their time in a center and they're out. It could be the whole gamut, but they just had to be charged with a crime. And we addressed civil legal issues. So we did a lot of talking to school districts, making sure kids had the right IEPs, figuring out discipline. I did a lot of like psychosocial bio assessments of families of kids, and really doing a lot of preventive work to address a lot of those things. I'm saying all that to just say, like, this was, after getting my master's degree in social work, it was my dream job and I loved it.
And everyone's thinking, she's smart lady.
No, it's great. And in the middle of that, for good reason, Eli joined us.
Mm-hmm.
We were very
Our
excited to
oldest.
have Elijah. And then Noah was on the way really quickly afterwards. I will say that for me, parenting is the hardest, most terrifying, most challenging, brutal, worthwhile, and joyful thing that I've ever done. And with each new development stage, I actually find new things that I love about my kids and about being a mom. They are some of the best things that we've ever done. She agrees, good. So we had a home, we had good jobs we loved, we had dear friends, we had a beloved church home, we had a small group from church that met in our home.
I was working at Microsoft.
Yeah, we were still volunteering with Young Life, so we had high school kids we were spending time with and discipling and going to camp with and just bringing Eli along to everything. And our friends on the Young Life team were also young married couples, and so we all kind of the babies just came, we passed them around, teenagers got used to crying, it was fine. And we had this amazing childcare setup where, like, Paul's dad watched our kids the one day a week. Neither of us could, and it just we had so much. I say all that to say, like, we had like what we
Supports,
wanted.
right.
Yeah, we had all the things.
It worked.
In all the right
It
places.
worked.
We even planted a garden. Like there's a lot. And we like to hike and backpack with kids because, like, I'd take the one and you'd take the stuff. And we had friends the same age as Eli and almost Noah, and just being really candid, we liked it, and I didn't want anything to change.
You just went off mic. No, I don't think you did anything wrong.
Okay, you go ahead.
Okay. So anyway, we ended up going to our church retreat, right? I think it was Whidbey Island. I don't remember where it was. September, October. And Jessica is 5 months pregnant at this point with Noah. And we've got it was a 3-man tent, so it's small. It was 3. They don't make two-man tents. They call them three, but it's just a two. They do make two-man tents?
It was two, baby. I know this for a fact.
Anyway, so we have this three-person tent, right? And we're camping out in the field, right? And so, like, a sleeping bag for Paul, sleeping bag for Jessica, car seat in the middle with baby,
I
right?
think Eli had just turned 1.
Yeah. Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe. That's right. Anyway, we're in the space, the teaching time, and I don't even remember what Kelly was talking about at the time. I really don't. That's important. My ADD had kicked in. I was not tracking anything. I was counting lights, floor, all that stuff. Anyway, I hear the Lord, and the Lord says, I want you to bring Young Life to Clallam County. I was like, that's really weird. I don't know what to do with that. So we're still volunteers, and I say to Jessica, pregnant Jessica, sleeping on the floor in tent, Jessica, what do you think about moving to Clallam County, Port Angeles, to do Young Life? And she's like, I think you're stupid. Yeah, it's probably good it's not. No, don't, that's turn it off.
Hello?
There you
Okay. No, my response was like, what? Where? How? And when's God going to tell me? Because
Right.
that just seemed like a good plan.
And it was kind of that thing, right? It was like, well, if God's going to tell me something, he's going to tell you the same thing. So just because I feel it doesn't mean you feel it. That's not the relationship we have, where Paul makes the rules. This relationship is we are in this together, right? And I think you did. And so we explored it a little bit. We pulled on that string. Is there a here? Is God calling us to Port Angeles? The wild thing is, all of the doors kept shutting for Port Angeles, but they kept opening for Port Townsend. I don't even understand that, right? And so we ended up moving to Port Townsend, a crunchy hippie community, hippier than you've ever seen. It's the capital where the hippies live. Like this is their mecca, right? And so like we moved there and we love it, and we're doing God's work in the least church county in the country. And then it was a couple years in, all of a sudden, like I get a phone call from Michelle Aarons in Port Angeles. And she's like, we want Young Life in Port Angeles. Can you bring Young Life to Port Angeles? And I was like, those are the exact words the Lord gave me, that we were supposed to bring Young Life to Port Angeles. We weren't supposed to do Young Life in Port Angeles. And I was like, oh. Anyway, you talk about Port Townsend.
It's okay. We made some hard choices together, but ultimately we made them believing that God would bless our lives and the lives of our children if we followed his call to ministry on the Olympic Peninsula. And one of the things we talked about while making that choice, but also throughout those years now, and even talking back to our kids about it, when they're like, how come we don't have a college fund, Mom and Dad? Well,
Right.
We really chose kingdom impact over finances and over financial impact. We both believed that this was the right call and that would ultimately be best for us and for our family, regardless of the challenges and changes. And for me in Port Townsend, or 4 months after Noah was born, is when we moved to Port Townsend. Super hippie community, and I was like, this is weird. But after like a couple months, I was like, I love this place.
We like the hippies.
We discovered I was an undercover hippie, maybe.
Right.
Is that a fair way to say it?
Crunchy, granola.
Found incredible people there. And I've honestly never felt more at home in a place. So it's wild how all
No,
those
that's true.
pieces came together. But I found some dear friends in the same stage as life with me that we started just a small group. It started with me reaching out to like wives of youth pastors in the church in the area that kind of in a small town, there's a lot of division, just kind of bringing people together, and said, I need a place where we can just talk about what's real and pray together and talk about it. And people were like, yes, thank you. So that became a beautiful like accountability group of women that I still spend a lot of time with virtually, if nowhere else. And in our church, we chose the year, the church, it was similar, like what's right for us and our family, that had like almost zero children's ministries.
There
I think
was none children.
our kids were the children.
Yeah.
So an older church for sure, but it was filled with adults, women and men that were incredible mentors for us, that were, a generation ahead and taught us how to love our kids and love the Lord and be in community. And
Little old ladies that pray.
yeah. and hug me when I cry. Really good things. So there was some differences in when we first moved. I thought, okay, Paul will do Young Life, and I'll be with kids, or I'll go back to work part-time. But after just a couple weeks in, I was like, no, I want to lead Young Life too. I know that you're paid to do it. I want to volunteer. And so part of what happened is a whole bunch of those people from our church and from our community and Paul's parents, when we all had to be gone at the same time, they would come and watch our kids, or my mom would come when we had
Which
kids
is a
to take
small
for camp.
ask. Can you watch 4 or 5 children, all little,
It's
that
really-
like to light fires?
Yeah. They didn't do that much. But we took our kids with us whenever we could, especially when they were little. And one of the things that was unique about Port Townsend is they hadn't had Young Life Ministry for a while, and so
Yeah.
we were restarting it. And the particular kinds of kids that we were drawn to and they were drawn to our club were kids from hard places. Most of our kids had at least one deceased parent, were being raised by grandparents, or were kids that had come through the foster system, the adoption system, both international and state. We had so many kids with so many stories. Like it's hard to explain.
Rural
And-
poverty
yeah,
is
rural
so
poverty is,
real. we like to focus on sort of urban poverty, and it's real too, right? But man, does it rural poverty get overlooked? Just this indicators like substance abuse, loss. It's so deep. The wounds are so deep. I remember one time we went camp, I think it was. Do you remember this? You had 14 girls in your cabin. Normally you'd have like 8 to 10 young people in your cabin. Jess had 14, right? And we're mandatory reporters, and so she was like, one of the leader meetings. She's like, okay, I've got some, who's got questions? I've got some mandatory reports I need to do. And I think it might have been Kai. I don't remember. I talked to Kai about it later, and he was like, we don't know how to do mandatory reports. Like, how do we do that?
I was like, I'm still a social worker. Let me take care of this.
Right.
Like, how many do you need to do? 14.
I think it was 12. 12 of 14 girls were mandatory reports. That means that they had sort of abuse. They had experienced abuse, surviving stuff. Like it was deep wounds, deep cuts.
So they're definitely a hard group of kids with massive hurt and loss, but they absolutely had our hearts. Like we knew that's where we were supposed to be. We bought a house, an old Victorian 1885 that was trashed, and had been a rental forever, but we brought it back to life. And we chose that house because it was 2 blocks from the high school. So we wanted kids to come by before school, after school, on lunch breaks. That was a big part of it. And over the years that we were there, 12 years, 10 years, we had 3 different students, one at a time, live with us. And today you might call those students like runaways or unaccompanied homeless youth, but they were kids for a variety of reasons who couldn't be in their home. And those young people became, honorary family members.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're still very dear to our hearts. And for each of them, they blessed us more than we could bless them. And they were all there for at least a year, if I remember the timing right.
Yeah.
Which is a little ironic when you realize we had a 3-bedroom home and 5 kids, and we were like, sure. Just
Move in.
It's great.
So like I was on Young Life staff, right? And it was tent making, probably very similar to what Jimmy's doing now, right? You work a side job so you can pay your bills, and then Young Life paid me a small stipend to cover things like benefits, house payment, like not even house payment. It was a small stipend, right? And it was an agreement that we had with Young Life and the community, and everyone was good with it because no one was hiding anything. But with that, because I was pulled in multiple directions, the whole idea was I was tech. I had lived this world of tech, and I was really good at it, so I could make a lot more doing that than I could running a thrift shop for Young Life, right? Like that's not a good plan. So everyone was like, okay, yeah, that's a good plan. And it was a community of 6,000 people. There's no way we can springboard a community, a Young Life out of that, especially when you've got the lack of churched peoples there. So what ended up happening was our budget was on a constant treadmill, right? We'd be doing fine, and then all of a sudden we'd go into deficit, and we'd go into deep deficit, right? And then I would get the phone call from the regional director that would say, if you don't fix this, you're going to be closed in 7 days. And I would be like, let me make some phone calls. And we had community members that would just, hey, how much do you need, Paul? Okay, I need $28,000 in like 4 days. Can you give 10? Sure, Paul, no problem. And I'm like, what? Okay. And so like we saw God sort of repeatedly show up and keep our ministry going. And we went from like this small little club in Port Townsend where we had 2 houses donated to us, not that we could sell, but that we could house leaders in, right? We had a GMC Suburban donated so that we could get a big old stupid sign on it that says Young Life, right? So like the community was bought in, but the finances just weren't there. From there, from Port Townsend, I already told you about Michelle Aarons. We saw Port Angeles open. Man, that is so cool, right? Port Angeles. And then all of a sudden I started getting phone calls from Forks, from the Twilight movies, if you know that, my area. So like we open a club in Forks, Washington, right? Like I am the only area in the United States that has an entire mountain range within it. It's cool, right? I have a quarter with the Olympic Mountains on it, right? Like this is a big area, lots going on, but we are not financially viable. And there was a moment where I remember, we started this company and it grew out of needing to raise money, right? I was sending emails out saying, hey, will you give, will you give, will you give? And in that process, I realized this thing of like, hey, what Mark talked about earlier, sending people email when they're most likely to open, right? So I spun up an open source server, put
Wait,
pixels
I
in.
think you need to start. It wasn't started on email, Facebook. You got to tell that part of the story, even though you don't like it.
What do you want me to tell about it?
Well, it started with, this was 2009, so you kind of have to
Yeah.
go back when, if you remember, there's a little bit of a recession.
Fair.
So all of Paul's contract work dried up.
Right.
And that was how we paid for everything. And then he all of a sudden had no contracts because, of
Yeah,
course,
that's
people
fair.
let contract workers go. And so we were like really struggling financially. We could make our house payment, but that was about it. And so I remember I was pregnant with Rafaela. Paul's work dried up, and I was working part-time as a social worker at a domestic violence and sexual assault agency. I was running their children's program there for kids and youth survivors. And my sad little social work part-time paycheck was not enough to bridge the gap. And one of the most sort of humbling and challenging moments of our ministry years was having to complete and apply for and get like WIC and to be on food stamps. And the things that we needed to be able to have a healthy pregnancy and to be able to feed our kids, which was really, it was a different experience having been a social worker for so long and then to be on the other side of having to request benefits.
No, that's fair. You're absolutely right. That sucked. That was a sucky time. What do you mean you don't have a job?
Well, I do, but yeah. Another piece that I think is important just to mention is that we recovered through that and we listened to God's pull and God's whisper on both of our hearts. Things turned around. Paul began to get more contract work, had some more steady income again. And one of the things that God's whisper on our hearts kind of reminded us is the night before Rafi was born, Paul and I were in a hospital and she had no name because she was the first girl child after 3 boys and she was a wonderful surprise, miracle baby. And we were trying to figure out her name. And one of the names we landed on was Amara. And we both said, I love that name. And we looked at each other and said, but that's not this daughter. And it was like, wait, what? And so we knew we could tell no one because the next day I was having a C-section at like 6 in the morning and she was number 4 and they already thought we were crazy. We had started the adoption process to adopt a child out of Ethiopia before we had the unexpected surprise Rafi's coming moment. And I don't think she had a name for about a week, but she did give a name eventually. We landed on Rafaela. But the name that was there was Amara. And what's significant about that is after Rafi had joined us, it took us a while, but there was a pull and a whisper in our heart that what about that other child I sort of had whispered to you about? So it started the adoption process again and told no one. And we, sorry, there was 2 families we were really close to there. Both had 15 kids, 16 kids?
13.
Okay, 100
14,
kids, it felt
14.
like. But, and they had both biological children and adopted through foster and international adoption. And so a lot of their kids were some of those that we were telling you about that we love dearly. And I asked for advice from Chris Little as I was like, we're gonna adopt, but our parents already thinks we're crazy. How do we handle this? She said, here's what you do. You don't tell them. Once you're matched with a baby, you say, look, this is our new child, and then they will celebrate. We were like, really? She was like, yep, and that's what we did. So Our dear friends knew, people who loved us knew, but we
Right.
did not tell our families
That's
until
true.
it was like right about that time because they thought we were nuts. And we were. But Betsy joined our family. Her name is Bethlehem Amara. And one of the unique things we learned as we were going through the adoption process is that Betsy's tribe affiliation is the Amhara people. And again, it felt like this whisper of God telling us, no, you have another child out there, Amara, and this was her.
Well, and not that, I know we're long in the tooth. You can just live with it. I went to Malibu, the same place that Jessica spent, work crew, where Eben went a couple summers ago, and we prayed over him. Malibu, this special place. And I'm up there on a men's weekend. I just want to hang out with my friends, pick oysters off the beach, just have a good time, right? And we get matched up with these other people, and we're going around and sharing. Like, something about you. I'm leading a group. I don't want to lead this group. I just want to hang out with my friends. But tell me something about yourself, why you're here, what you do, and something interesting. So I go, Paul Schreiner, Young Life. I've got this thing called send time optimization, and something interesting. We're considering adoption. Okay. The next morning, guy comes up to me and he goes, tell me more about this considering adoption thing. And I was like, what's that? He goes, why aren't you doing it? I don't know. He's like, is it money?
Yes, it was.
No, I didn't say that. I was like, I don't know. We're waiting on the Lord. He's like, no, it's money, isn't it? And he's like, is it money? I have money. I have a lot of money. I'm the vice president of marketing for Procter & Gamble. I have a lot of money, and I want to support people trying to adopt. Can I give you money? If I give you money, will you move forward? Oh, I guess we will. People, we're not talking about like $8. We're talking about $20,000. That's a huge lift. And all of a sudden, all of these barriers that were in the way have evaporated. And we know that we are matched with the perfect girl. That's you, Betsy. So anyway, work dries up. What I do when work is slow is I lean into what's interesting to me. And right now, that's AI, right? But back then, it was social media, right? And so I'm trying to figure out when people are posting and when I can schedule the perfect post time. And that kind of slipped. And finally, we landed on email. Like, is there the right time to email? So I kept track of when people were interacting with their emails, both through opens and clicks. I know, I'm sorry. I embedded those spy pixels in your emails. That was me. And I wrapped the link so that I knew when you opened and I knew when you clicked. I didn't invent that. That was already done. I just used it. But then I kept track of it all, and I put it into a database, and we call it sort of a basic linear regression algorithm to figure out when people interact with their emails. And the thing is, it worked. It worked really well, right? Because your previous behavior is the best indicator of future behavior, right? So like when I said, Mark, here's everything you've ever interacted with, it was like 200 clicks, right? He's like, okay, that's scary. It is scary, right? Especially when you have this large pool of data. That technology that I created, it's called send time optimization. It now exists on every email service provider in the world. If you look up send time optimization, it exists. Cool. I did not get rich from it. But, and that's sort of what triggered our move to Chattanooga. Like we were trying to sort of juggle these things for a while, but there was a moment where Young Life said, we can't have this part-time thing anymore from you. And my business partner says, I can't have this part-time thing from you anymore. And so I thought on the same day, I'm going to lose my ministry that I started that's doing great, and I'm going to lose my job of the company that I started. And I remember calling Jessica, and I just didn't know what to expect, right? Because when you start stacking failures up, like what's going to come? And what I received was grace and just this beautiful woman who knew I was broken in that moment. And she prayed for me, and she sent me Bible verses all day long. And I remember, like, we're going to make it through. And that prompted the move to Chattanooga. We were like, okay, we've got to do something. So we moved, we had investors here. We felt like we were supposed to be here. They had said you need to be here and you need to be full-time. So we did. So we moved here, and our first customer was Sony, right? The stereo company, I think that's what they are. Sony PlayStation. We've heard of them, right? So it was the EMEA group, Europe, Middle East, and Asia, and it was, they had real problems with sending email because sending at 9 a.m. was like 2 a.m. for people in Australia, right? It's because there were so many time zones that they had to, so our technology was a great solution, and then we added Microsoft to the mix and Ticketmaster, and we had all of these giant companies, and I'm like, I don't even know how we're doing this. And every time we'd take one step forward, we'd take 2 steps back. Maybe it was bumbling, I don't know, right? We moved here and we believed we had a buyer on the hook. We were going to sell the company right away, and then it didn't sell. It fell through. Why? I don't know, man. It just did. It just did. And so we went from being like, we're going to move here for 6 months and then we'll move back to Washington where our people are, back to hippies. We rented our house, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, you're going to be here. You're going to be here for a while. We found a church up on the mountain.
Well, and it took a minute because during part of that, Paul was required to be here.
Yeah.
And we couldn't sell our home. So we were apart for a year and a half.
About a year.
With Paul trying to fly home at least every 6 weeks. But that was when the kids were super young.
And that sucked.
Yeah. That was the same time frame when we decided or discovered that Rafi had celiac disease, that Evan had EOE, which is another gastro disease, and just lots of things. And they were little. Like Betty was not quite 2, I think, when that started, when you had to go away. I will say, but when we moved here, obviously we made plans to only be here for a short time, 6 months max.
Yeah.
It was like, we've
that's
done ministry for so long. It's time for us to
We're going to sell. We're going to be so rich.
Receive ministry.
Millions of dollars.
It's been 11 years now, so.
And we got tens of dollars out of it.
Yeah. But I would say coming to Chattanooga was a lot for me to navigate personally. I think our focus was on getting the kids acclimated, and they did pretty great. Really supporting them was our first goal. And in that process, we found a church near us with a pastor and a family we really connected with. We're in a small group together, and we literally called ourselves the misfits at church because, similar to I told you, like the kind of kids that we were drawn to at Young Life, similarly, we loved our pastor and their family, and we felt so connected with them. And then everybody else that didn't quite fit, like that was our small group, and we fit together, if that makes sense. And it was really wonderful. After a bit of things were settled, you were working at your job, and I went back to work full-time as a social worker supporting survivors of violent crime at the Chattanooga Police Department. My caseload was all survivors of either attempted homicide or the family members of homicide victims.
Light stuff.
Yeah, it was beautiful and brutal work, and I loved every minute of it. That was one of the answers, I think, in coming here, was learning that I could be really good at crisis work and that it was a place that felt holy and like God was calling me and using the gifts that I had there too.
That church didn't work for us. That's the short answer. I mean, you can. Like, we found the place and it was good, but when the pastor left, all of that sort of progressive sort of thinking about church left with him. And all of a sudden, we went from being like, this is our place, to feeling judged on the weekly, right? Because our kids weren't behaving enough. Like,
they weren't dressed right. Our parenting wasn't good. Our theology was a little different.
Right, too crunchy. And, like, for me, what it really came down to, like, truly the moment that I was like, this is no longer a place we can go, was how they viewed women. It was like, women can't be in leadership, period. And I was like, that's just wrong. I have daughters, man. I want mirrors that they can look at and say, that's who I want to be, right? And they're going to change the world. And I want a church that supports that and believes in that, and that was not it. While it's a great church, it's not our church.
I think in particular, we had one child who was really struggling to be at church at all. And we would take turns being with this child outside, doing what we needed to do. And in that process, we felt incredibly judged, ostracized, unwelcome. It was really hard to have that peace. So we left. And I say that not to trash the other church, but to share for us, like, why Journey ended up being such a special place. Because we sort of tiptoed into a lot of different churches, waiting to see, like, is this an okay place? Can we be ourselves authentically here? Do we have to pretend that our lives or our kids are a certain way? We just wanted to be able to be ourselves authentically and worship Jesus, and we wanted a place that welcomed our kids. And Journey has been that place for us for the last, I don't know how long, 8 years?
Something like that.
And truly, like, it's do you want to win parents over? Love and welcome their kids. And that was everything
Right.
for us. So that's, I think, part of.
What's that? Honestly, originally we found it on a website from Washington State, and we visited one time when it was in Hickson, and the roof was too loud when it rained, and we're like, we can't go there, it's too loud.
I think it was before we went to the other church. It was like one of those random, I don't even remember.
And then we're like, well, maybe we should try that again. What's that? Yeah.
I do not remember that at all. So
We
when
went on time. Stacy spoke that day. She did a great job. Knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, when we came back to Journeys when y'all were in the theater.
Yeah.
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 That's where we first.
So catching us up, you all know the story from here a little bit. Like the company that I started and worked for 17 years pushed me out. Pushed me out because I disagreed with the direction of the company. We had to bring in a new investor, and they wanted to send nothing but cold email. They wanted to send you emails.
The spammy stuff.
Yeah, the spammy stuff. Not like legit companies, but like, hey, you didn't ask for this and now you get it. I didn't want to do that, and I pushed really hard. And that is ultimately what pushed me out. I didn't do anything wrong, it was just that. But it also, with it, took all of my retirement. So I'm starting over at age 50. And that's a scary place to be. And that was in, I want to say, November of this year, late October. And
That's when you were laid off, October.
yeah, end of October. And my sweet bride, Jessica, just supported me more than I can imagine. Like, that's a fragile state, right? Where you're out of work. I know many of you know that. I know we're all kind of going through it, right? But it's fragile, and you're like, it only takes a funny look to be like, you don't believe in me, and that is crippling. And Jessica never once did that. She believed in me. She's like, we're gonna get through this, it's gonna be great. And we did, right? And during that time, I just leaned in on the AI stuff. How do I learn and figure out and do what I do on that front? And in the process, I ran into a company called Zero with an X, and they were really excited about me. And it was such this incredible blessing as a friend of mine was running it, because I'm staring at going, we're starting over, and how do we do this? And this company came in that tripled my salary. And I'm like, the Lord is good, right? Like, we have this thing that there's just not enough scarcity, right? And when we're looking at our church right now, we're like, there's just not enough people. There's not enough this, and there's not enough that. We're losing Mark and his family. There's just not enough. That is a scarcity theology. And I serve a God of abundance. And that has proven out over and over and over again. And who's going to be the pastor? We don't know, but we serve a God of abundance. You know what I mean? What about our kids' programs? I don't know, but we serve a God of abundance, and we have to look at the world from those eyes that God wants to do his ministry in Chattanooga. And if we have the inclination to be a part of that for a moment, it is the greatest blessing we can be a part of. And so, like, when we started talking about the eldering process, I did take it very seriously. Like, this is a big deal. It weighs heavy, right? It is not a role I want. Joe said that last week, and I was like, that's right. I don't want this role. But I'll serve in this role because it's what the church needs. I prayed a lot about it. We prayed a lot about it. And I felt like, okay, if this is what the church wants, and this is where the Lord's leading us, that's where we'll go. I don't have a plan. Like, I don't have here's our agenda. Right? Our agenda is to serve the Lord and figure out where the Lord is directing us. I told Mark from the beginning, I said, like, here's the deal. Some stories have ends. This may be a story that has an ending. And if your goal is to bring me on to say, there's no ending, I can't commit to that. I can commit to saying, what is the Lord doing with these people right now in this place, and what does he want to do with these people? And if that's what you're calling me to, I can absolutely do that. And that's where I am.
I get to tell my PTS, personal trauma story. It's really fun.
Okay.
It's a hard turn, sorry. I had left the Chattanooga Police Department to join the school system as a school social worker. And when I left CPD, I began volunteering as a chaplain. So 1 weekend a month, I'm the person they call out to respond to all kinds of hard things and tragedies, to serve community members, to serve officers as well. It's really called or considered a ministry of presence, and it's a beautiful, holy thing that I get to be a part of. Your church or our church, however we say that, has sent me to that place. So when I go and I serve as a chaplain, I'm chaplain for Journey. So y'all should probably know that. That seems important. I had transitioned a little bit ago from that social work role in a school to a district role, leading interdisciplinary teams to support students and families proactively. It was really meaningful, systems changing work. It was hard, but it was worthwhile. The other part that's important, I think, to share is that I had a really toxic and an unhealthy direct supervisor. She really negatively impacted my work experience. But I believed in the work too much to stop, so I persevered despite how bad it was. And then the car accident happened. Yep. December 2024, I was in a car accident that resulted in a really severe concussion. And then post-concussion syndrome. After 9 months of healing really, really slowly, my medical providers and I had really hard conversations. And their conversation for me was about the need to prioritize my health if I wanted to get better. That I needed to step back, get more sleep, have less stress, get off screens. Sort of like, do you want to get better? It was kind of one of those moments, and this is what you need to do. So I transitioned back to a school setting as a school social worker at the Dawn program this year in September. And if you're not sure of what the Dawn program is for Hamilton County Schools, I get to support exceptional education students who are K-12 that have severe social, emotional, behavioral needs. I'm their mental health practitioner. Unfortunately, 1 month into my new role, I was punched in the head by a student that I was doing a suicide assessment on, and I sustained a new concussion. So I had to start my healing all over again. I couldn't drive, daily migraines, intense sensitivity to light and sounds. At this point, I did make slow progress. I am healing. Things are much better. Even with that, I think it was absolutely the right choice, but it was a huge change for my life, for our life, and really impacted Paul. I've had to learn to live with a disability, and for someone who's fiercely independent, that's really, really hard to do. And we have had to adjust our lives to support me and my needs for the last 1.5 years. Living with post-concussion syndrome has been really hard. It means that Paul has to step up in a lot of ways. So he was driving me everywhere, making our meals, doing the cooking and the cleaning, but also carrying the bulk of decision-making, responsibility, moving kids, because my brain really struggled with names and organization and things that were super second nature to me. I'm normally the person who gets maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep because I have so much to do and I'm just fine. That's not working in this stage of life at all. I'm not just fine when I do that. We also got a brand new black lab puppy named Daisy 3 days before that car accident. I was supposed to be her trainer and take her care, so Paul also inherited, sorry babe, all the puppy duties.
We're dog church now.
Yeah, so when she's better, we can bring her. But beyond light and sound sensitivities, I really have super low energy. So I can do very little after a full day of work. So if I've been at work, I can't go sit in a loud restaurant. I'll send my family, you bring me home food later. So there's been a lot that I've had to miss out on or choose to not be a part of because just body-wise, energy-wise, I can't. I'm almost done with this part, sorry.
You're good.
Through this all, the reason I wanted to share it is that Paul has really loved me and supported me through all of this with grace, with kindness, and without making me feel shame for needing his help. If this ask for Paul had become an elder had come a year sooner, I don't know that we could have had the bandwidth to say yes, just being real, but knowing Paul as I do, seeing his gifts and abilities up close, I can't think of anybody that I would actually trust more to love, to serve, and to guide our church. I understand that this will take Paul's time and energy, and I enthusiastically support him serving as an elder. That's all I have. Sorry, it's a hard end. Okay?
Yeah. I can hear from all of you all the time. You're so great, but when my wife does it in front of you, it's good. It is good. Yeah, we love this church. Do you want to come up and do your stuff, Mark, or are we good? I texted him this morning. I was like, we're probably going to go long. Don't plan anything.
Thank you guys for sharing with us. And I'll be honest, I didn't hear anything you had to say. I'm still stuck on you and Lola, the showgirl. From that point forward, I don't even remember what else would happen.
It was before cell phones. I don't think
It's really not fair that that is the image that's in my head now. But so thank you all for sharing your stories. So happy that you have been a part of our church, and both do certainly have big hearts for not only people in our church but outside of our church, and super thankful for that. So we're going to do the same thing that we did before. We did with Joe last week, and the way that this process works is you nominate, and then the existing elders kind of go through and say, these are the ones that seems like the church is nominating. We talk with them. Are you willing? We ask them to fill out a bundle of stuff, so we really know the details of your background and your testimony and what do you really believe, and are we a match? And so we've been through this process with both. And then after sharing their testimony and their story, we then ask you to affirm or not affirm, which is kind of hard when he's sitting up here looking at you, right? But we're a pretty casual place, and so at this point, you all have spoken pretty overwhelmingly that you think he might be a good idea. The Lola, the showgirl thing may have changed it for you as well. I don't know, but if you would affirm Paul in this role, if you would do so by raising your hand. All right. I think that's pretty overwhelming, and so we won't ask if you don't affirm. Thank you for being willing to serve and for y'all's friendship and your service. And as you may or may not know, one of the things Jessica mentioned is you as a church, we commissioned her in her role as chaplain for the Chattanooga Police Department. So we've been active in each other's lives for quite a while. So our next steps are going to be, we've been getting to this place where we have a functioning elder group, and then now the real fun starts. We're going to schedule an ordination ceremony. It'll probably be in a couple of weeks if everybody can be here. Next week is Mother's Day, so we won't do it on Mother's Day. But the role of elder is a position that does carry an ordination with it. And what that looks like is we come together and we share what that is, and we pray over them, and we commission them to be leaders of our church. And so we'll do that probably in a couple of weeks if all family members who want to be here can be here for that. And then we are going to do the work of charting the course ahead. And there's a lot of work to be done, but there's a lot of opportunity. And my heart for Journey has nothing to do with program or building or how many people are sitting in seats or how big the budget is. It is simply, does a person who's looking for a community and also to have a relationship with Christ have a place here? And you would think that would be at any church, but many of us have found that is not the case. To be a place that truly welcomes no matter where somebody is on their life journey, knowing that we're all on a journey is the purpose, has always been the purpose of this church. And so if that can be our testimony, this is a pretty phenomenal community, and I'm thankful for all of you. So we're a little over time. Does the worship team, you guys, are you spent? You got one more in you? Huh? All right. We're going to close. We'll close out with one more song, and then yeah. And then we'll do our normal stuff. Paul, thank you. Yep. Jessica, thank you. And kids, thanks for sharing them. When I started dating Deidre, the bar was very high, and so I heard that the bar was very high for Jessica. For me, it was Paul from Little House on the Prairie. If you grew up watching Little House on the Prairie, I've never measured up. I've never measured up. Anyways, we're thankful you're here. We're going to sing this, and then we'll just close out from there. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, and I'm super excited about next steps. It's going to be a good season together.
All right, we got like a 10-minute song, so hope you guys are ready. You thought of us before the world began to breathe. You knew our names before we came to be. You saw the very day we fall away from you, how desperately we need to be redeemed. Lord Jesus, come lead us. We're desperate for your touch. Oh, great and mighty one, with one desire we come, that you would reign, that you would reign in us. We were offering up our lives, a living sacrifice, that you would reign, that you would reign in us. Spirit of the living God, fall fresh again. Come search our hearts and purify our lives. We need your perfect love. We need your discipline. We're lost unless you guide us with your light. Lord Jesus, come lead us. We're desperate for your touch. Oh, great and mighty one, with the one desire we come, that you would reign, that you would reign in us. We were offering up our lives, a living sacrifice, that you would reign, that you would reign in us. We cry out for your love to refine us. Cry out for your love to define. Cry out for your mercy to keep us blameless until you return. Great and mighty one, with one desire we come, that you would reign, that you would reign in us. We were offering up our lives, a living sacrifice, that you would reign, that you would reign. One more time. Oh, great and mighty one, the one desire we come, that you would reign, that you would reign in us. We were offering up our lives, a living sacrifice, that you would reign, that you would reign in us. You would reign in us. So reign, please reign in us. Come purify us. We need your touch. Come cleanse us like a flood, and send us out, so the world will know you reign. You world may know you reign in us. So reign, please reign in us. Come purify our hearts. We need your touch. Cleanse us like a flood and sing a sound so the world may know you reign in us. So the world may know you reign in us. Amen, church, amen.
Bye, guys.
Make you uncomfortable when I'm around. You always find a reason to shut me out. You don't understand me, so you push me away and you claim Jesus lets you live that way. Tell me why.